Hello. In the turbulent world of American politics, some stories refuse to be buried. And for years, the shadow of Jeffrey Epstein has loomed large, a dark cloud of unanswered questions and powerful connections. This week, that cloud is poised to finally break. On Tuesday, November 18th, 2025, the U.S. Congress, in a rare display of near-unanimous bipartisanship, voted to compel the Department of Justice to release its secret files on the convicted sex offender. The House vote was a staggering 427-1. The Senate approved it without a single objection. Now, the bill heads to the one desk in Washington that has for months been the center of the storm, President Donald Trump's. Today, we're examining a story that's about more than just one man's horrific crimes. It's about a president's sudden whiplash-inducing reversal, the political earthquake it's causing within his own party, and what it reveals about the changing grip of Donald Trump on the very movement he created. This is the story of the Epstein files and the fracturing of the MAGA kingdom. For months, the battle over the Epstein files was a clear line in the sand. On one side, a coalition of Democrats and a vocal group of populist Republicans like Kentucky's Thomas Massie and Georgia's Marjorie Taylor Greene demanded transparency. They argued the American people deserved to know the full extent of Epstein's network and whether the justice system had protected the rich and powerful. On the other side, the Trump administration, which actively fought the release. President Trump himself had labeled the push a Democratic hoax and amplified conspiracy theories about the case to his base. But then, just 2 days before the House vote, the seemingly immovable object moved. Trump abruptly dropped his opposition, urging Republicans to support the release because, in his words, "We have nothing to hide." So what changed? The simple answer is political reality. The bill was going to pass, with or without him. Faced with a massive, embarrassing public rebuke from his own party, the president chose to get in front of the parade he could no longer stop. The White House, according to insiders, was caught completely off guard by how quickly the bill flew through Congress, expecting a longer fight in the Senate. It was a rare moment of Trump being outmaneuvered on his own turf. But this wasn't just a political calculation, it was a capitulation that has sent shockwaves through his administration and his base. A Reuters Ipsos poll taken just before the vote showed Trump's approval rating on the issue had hit its lowest point this year. Only 1 in 5 voters approved of his handling of the matter. Even more alarmingly for the president, only 44% of Republicans thought he was handling it well. The Epstein scandal had become a rare weak spot for Trump with his most ardent supporters, many of whom genuinely believe the government is covering up a list of powerful pedophiles. The significance of these numbers cannot be overstated. Throughout his political career, Trump has maintained an almost unshakable hold on his Republican base, with approval ratings among party members typically hovering in the 80s and 90s. To see that support cut nearly in half on this single issue reveals just how deeply the Epstein matter resonates with his core voters. It's not just about Trump's personal connection to Epstein, it's about a broader narrative that many in the MAGA movement have embraced, that a shadowy elite operates above the law, and that Trump was supposed to be the one to expose them. The political fallout was immediate and personal. The most dramatic schism has been with one of his staunchest allies, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. Greene, a leading voice in the MAGA movement, had been a fierce advocate for releasing the files. She revealed that President Trump had personally pressured her to back down and then publicly branded her a traitor when she refused. Her response was a direct challenge to the president's authority. Standing with survivors of Epstein's abuse outside the Capitol, she declared, "A traitor is an American that serves foreign countries and themselves. A patriot is an American that serves the United States of America." She later said the fight had ripped MAGA apart. The scene outside the Capitol that day was particularly poignant. About 24 survivors of Epstein's alleged abuse stood holding photographs of their younger selves, images taken at the age when they first encountered Epstein. After the House vote, these women stood in the public gallery, some crying, some embracing, applauding the lawmakers who had voted for transparency. One survivor, Jana Lisa Jones, who said Epstein sexually abused her when she was 14, addressed the president directly. "Please stop making this political. It is not about you, President Trump. I voted for you, but your behavior on this issue has been a national embarrassment." This public feud is more than just a personal spat. As an NPR analysis pointed out, it's a symptom of a larger fracture within Trump's coalition. Greene and others on the populist right have grown increasingly uneasy with what they see as Trump breaking his America First promises. They point to the bombing of Iranian nuclear sites in June, a multi-billion-dollar currency swap with Argentina that angered American cattle ranchers, And now, the initial resistance to releasing the Epstein files. Greene, who once called Trump the founding father of the America First movement, is now asserting that the founding father is not its sole arbiter. Each of these issues represents a different constituency within the Trump coalition feeling betrayed. The Iran bombing alienated the anti-interventionist wing that was drawn to Trump's 2016 promises to end endless wars. The Argentina currency swap, which included plans to increase Argentine beef imports, infuriated American farmers and ranchers who believed Trump would always put their interests first. And the Epstein files resistance has angered those who saw Trump as a crusader against elite corruption. This raises a crucial question for the Republican Party. What does a post-Trump GOP look like? With the president facing record unpopularity and not being on the ballot in the 2026 midterms, his iron grip on the party is visibly loosening. The Epstein files controversy is forcing Republicans to confront that question much sooner, and with much more uncertainty than they ever planned. To understand the political poison of the Epstein issue for Donald Trump, we have to look back at their long and complicated history. Before he was president, Trump and Epstein were fixtures in the same elite social circles of New York and Palm Beach in the 1990s and early 2000s. They partied together, flew on Epstein's private jet, and in a 2002 New York Magazine profile, Trump called Epstein a terrific guy who likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. That 2002 quote has haunted Trump ever since it resurfaced during his first presidential campaign. The phrase "on the younger side" takes on a particularly sinister meaning in light of what we now know about Epstein's crimes. Trump's defenders have argued the comment was innocent at the time, merely referring to Epstein's preference for dating younger adult women. But critics point out that by 2002, there were already whispers in elite circles about Epstein's inappropriate behavior with teenage girls. Since then, Trump has offered conflicting accounts of when and why their friendship ended. In 2019, after Epstein's arrest on federal sex trafficking charges, Trump claimed he hadn't spoken to him in 15 years, placing the split in 2004. He said he was not a fan. One story, reported by the Washington Post, centers on a 2004 bidding war for a Palm Beach mansion. Trump outbid Epstein for the property, a showdown one observer called two very large Palm Beach egos going at it. Public records show little interaction between them after that. This narrative is appealing to Trump because it frames the split as a business rivalry between equals with no moral dimension. Another, more damning narrative which Trump himself has recently pushed is that he banned Epstein from his Mar-a-Lago club for inappropriate behavior. The timeline here is also murky. Some reports placed the ban in late 2007 after Epstein allegedly harassed the teenage daughter of a club member. This version, reported by Miami Herald and Wall Street Journal journalists, suggests Trump took action to protect a young woman, casting him in a more heroic light. However, just this past summer, Trump claimed he kicked Epstein out for poaching spa employees, and even acknowledged that one of Epstein's most well-known accusers, Virginia Giuffre, was among them. The problem with that timeline? Giuffre worked at Mar-a-Lago in the summer of 2000, 2 years before Trump was publicly praising Epstein as a terrific guy. This contradiction is impossible to reconcile. If Epstein had stolen employees, including a teenage girl who would become his victim, why would Trump still be calling him terrific 2 years later? This shifting narrative, combined with his initial opposition to releasing the files, has fueled the very conspiracy theories he once encouraged. It has created a credibility gap with his own base and left him looking defensive and angry. When asked about it in the Oval Office this week, he called the reporter a terrible person and declared, "I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein." He even went so far as to suggest the reporter's television network should have its license revoked, a threat that raised alarm bells among press freedom advocates. So what exactly is in these files? The release will cover all unclassified Justice Department records, which amounts to over 300 gigabytes of data. This includes FBI investigative reports, interview notes with witnesses and victims, information on potential targets, and records of what was to be subpoenaed. While some sensitive information, particularly graphic details of abuse, will likely remain sealed to protect victims, the files could shed light on the full scope of Epstein's criminal enterprise and the powerful individuals who may have been involved. The files represent two major FBI investigations. The first was conducted by the Miami Field Division and led to Epstein's 2008 guilty plea to state charges in Florida, for which he served just 13 months in jail under a controversial work release program. That lenient sentence, negotiated by then U.S. Attorney Alexander Acosta, has been widely criticized as a sweetheart deal that protected Epstein and potentially other powerful men. The second investigation, conducted by the FBI's New York office, led to the 2019 federal sex trafficking charges. What makes these files potentially explosive is not just what they might reveal about Epstein himself, but about the network of powerful men who surrounded him. Epstein cultivated relationships with politicians, business leaders, academics, and celebrities. His private island, his Manhattan mansion, his Palm Beach estate, all were gathering places for the elite. The question that has haunted this case from the beginning is, who knew what and when did they know it? Representative Thomas Massie, the Kentucky Republican who led the effort to force the vote, put it bluntly from the House floor. He accused the Justice Department of protecting pedophiles and sex traffickers and said, "How will we know if this bill has been successful? We will know when there are men, rich men, in handcuffs being perp-walked to the jail, and until then, this is still a cover-up." For President Trump, the political damage is already done. His reversal on the bill was a sign of weakness, not strength. The public feud with a key ally has exposed deep cracks in his MAGA fortress, and his shifting stories about his own relationship with Epstein have only deepened suspicion. But the implications extend far beyond Trump himself. This episode has revealed the limits of presidential power in the face of genuine bipartisan consensus. It has shown that even the most loyal allies can break ranks when they believe fundamental principles are at stake. And it has demonstrated that some issues, particularly those involving the abuse of children and the protection of the powerful, transcend normal partisan divides. The release of the Epstein files was never just about the past. It has become a flashpoint in the present, a catalyst accelerating the difficult and perhaps inevitable conversation about the future of the Republican Party and the legacy of the man who has dominated it for a decade. As the files are released in the coming weeks and months, we'll be watching to see what they reveal, not just about Jeffrey Epstein and his crimes, but about the systems and structures that allowed those crimes to continue for so long. Thank you for joining us. We'll be watching closely as this story unfolds. Join us next time as we continue to explore the stories shaping our world.
Yeah.